The surgery happened in silence, broken only by Taehyun's ragged breathing and the drip of water from pipes overhead. Jiwoo's scalpel cut deeper, searching for the chip that was killing him from inside. "I can't see it clearly," she said. Her voice was steady, but her hand shook. "There's too much blood." Daeho pressed another cloth against the wound. The fabric turned red immediately. They were running out of clean supplies. Running out of time. Taehyun's eyes were open but unfocused. The pain had pushed him beyond screaming, beyond thinking. He existed in a space between consciousness and darkness, feeling every cut but unable to react. The leather strap in his mouth was soaked with saliva and blood from where he had bitten his own tongue. "Found it," Jiwoo whispered. The chip was lodged against his intestine. Metal edges had cut into the tissue, and the damage was worse than the scanner had shown. Removing it meant tearing the wound wider. Leaving it meant death. Jiwoo positioned the forceps. Her hand stopped shaking. In this moment, nothing else existed. Not the alarms that would soon sound. Not the guards who would hunt them. Not even the empire she was betraying. There was only the chip and the man dying beneath her hands. She began to pull. Taehyun's body arched off the table. The resistance members held him down. Blood poured from the wound in a steady stream. Jiwoo kept pulling slowly and carefully. The chip was stuck to damaged tissue. She could feel it tearing as she worked it free. "Almost there," she breathed. A final pull. The chip came loose with a wet sound. Jiwoo held it up, and in that moment everything changed. The chip was dissolving. The corrosion had eaten through most of the casing. Another few hours and it would have fallen apart completely inside him. The data would have been lost. Taehyun would have died with the truth still hidden in his body, but now it was free. Now they had evidence. Now they could fight back. Tears ran down Jiwoo's face. She didn't know when she had started crying. Vraxi didn't cry often. It was considered a weakness, a sign of inferior emotional control, but she couldn't stop the tears. They fell onto the bloody chip in her hand. "I removed it," she said. Her voice broke. "Please." The word came out as a sob. "Please, please what? Please live. Please forgive me for cutting you. Please let this be worth it. Please let the data be intact. Please let the pain mean something." Taehyun's eyes focused on her face. Through the haze of agony, he saw Vraxi crying. For him, for a human. It was impossible. It was everything. He tried to speak but couldn't. Blood bubbled at the corner of his mouth. "Don't talk," Jiwoo said quickly. She set the chip down and grabbed surgical thread. "I need to close the wound. Stay with me." But Taehyun's eyes were already drifting closed. His body had been pushed too far. Shock was setting in. His breathing grew shallow and rapid. His skin turned gray. "No," Jiwoo said. "No, you don't get to die. Not after everything." Her hands moved faster than she thought possible. Stitching, tying, closing the terrible wound she had made. Daeho kept pressure on the bleeding. The other resistance members stood frozen, watching a Vraxi work desperately to save a human life. The footsteps came then. Heavy boots on metal floors, shouting voices growing closer. They found the surgery site, one of the lookouts reported. "Kale is with them. How long?" Daeho asked. 2 minutes, maybe less." Jiwoo's hands never stopped moving. 3 more stitches. 2 more, 1. She tied off the thread and pressed a bandage against the wound. Blood soaked through immediately but slower than before. "We have to move," Daeho said. They lifted Taehyun between them. He was completely unconscious now, his head lolling. Jiwoo grabbed the data chip and shoved it into her pocket. They ran deeper into the maintenance tunnel, away from the approaching guards. Behind them, Kale's voice echoed through the corridors. "Find them! I want every human on this station rounded up. Anyone who helped them dies." The tunnel branched in multiple directions. Daeho led them through a maze of passages, left then right, then down a ladder into lower levels. The air grew colder and damper. These tunnels hadn't been used in years. They reached the hidden chamber and sealed the door behind them. It was barely large enough for all of them. Taehyun was laid on a mat in the corner. Jiwoo checked his pulse. "Weak, too weak. He needs blood," she said, "and antibiotics. Real ones, not the expired ones I stole." "I have medical supplies," Daeho said. He opened a sealed crate. Inside were proper medical kits. Military grade. "We've been stealing from Vraxi shipments for months." Jiwoo stared at the supplies. Then at Daeho. "You're more organized than I thought. We've been preparing for this war for 2 years." We just needed proof to show the other stations. Proof that we're not paranoid, that the Empire really is trying to kill us. He looked at the bloody chip in her hand. That's our proof. Jiwoo pulled out a portable data reader and inserted the chip. The screen flickered. For a moment, she thought the corrosion had destroyed the data. Then files began to load. Communication logs. Engineering reports. Death records. Everything Taehyun had found in the reactor bay. Everything the Empire had tried to hide. But there was more. The chip had been connected to the station's main database when it was hidden. It had been recording for months, copying files automatically, building a complete picture of the conspiracy. This isn't just about Helios 7, Jiwoo said quietly. This is system-wide. Dozens of stations. Thousands of deaths. She scrolled through the files. Her face grew paler with each page. Messages between high-ranking officials discussing human elimination quotas, cost-benefit analyses comparing the value of human labor versus the threat of human intelligence, plans to slowly reduce the human population across all Vraxi territories. They're not just covering up accidents, Daeho said. They're planning genocide. Not planning, executing. Jiwoo pointed at a timeline. This has been happening for 5 years. The accidents are accelerating. In 2 more years, there won't be enough humans left to sustain the labor force. Then they'll import a new species. Start the whole process over. One of the resistance members punched the wall. We need to broadcast this now. Every human station needs to see this. If we broadcast, Kale will trace the signal, Jiwoo said. He'll blow this section of the station, kill everyone in it. Then we die fighting instead of working in chains. No. Daeho's voice was firm. We're smarter than that. We use their own systems against them. He pulled up a schematic of the station's communication network. The Vraxi have Ansible transmitters for long-range communication. They're heavily encrypted and monitored, but there's a blind spot. During shift changes, the monitoring drops to automated systems for 15 minutes. 15 minutes isn't enough time to send all this data, Jiwoo said. It is if we compress it. Strip out everything except the core evidence. Send it to every human station simultaneously. Daeho looked at her. But we need Vraxi access codes. The kind only supervisors have, Jiwoo understood. They were asking her to betray her species completely. Not just helping one human. Not just looking the other way. This was treason on a scale that would make her name a curse word for generations. She looked down at Taehyun. He was still unconscious, his chest barely rising and falling. She had cut him open, had dug inside his body with her own hands, had felt his blood on her skin, and he had trusted her. Even when she was hurting him. Even when every instinct told him to run, a human had trusted Vraxi, after everything the Empire had done. After all the lies and deaths and cruelty, he had looked at her and chosen to believe. I'll do it, Jiwoo said. I'll give you my access codes. But we're not just sending it to human stations. We're sending it everywhere, to Vraxi news networks, to independent journalists, to every Ansible receiver in known space. They'll kill you, Daeho said. They'll kill me anyway. At least this way it means something. She began typing out her authorization codes. Her hands didn't shake anymore. Fear had burned away, leaving only purpose. On the mat, Taehyun stirred. His eyes opened. He looked at Jiwoo, and somehow even through the pain, he smiled. Did you get it? He whispered. Yes, I got it. Jiwoo knelt beside him. The chip is out. The data is safe. Good. His hand reached for hers. His grip was weak but steady. I knew you would. How? How did you know you could trust me? Because you cried, Taehyun said. I've never seen a Vraxi cry before. Jiwoo's tears came again. She held his hand and let herself cry. For him. For all the humans who had died. For the Empire she had believed in. For the person she used to be. We're going to end this, she said. We're going to show everyone the truth. Taehyun's smile widened. Then it was worth it. He slipped back into unconsciousness. But his hand stayed in hers, holding on. 3 hours after the memory wipe, Taehyun opened his eyes. The medical bay's white ceiling blurred above him. His head felt like someone had split it open with an axe. Every thought came slowly, pushing through fog and pain. He's awake, a Vraxi doctor said. Taehyun tried to sit up, but straps held him down. What happened? You suffered a head injury during mining operations. We treated you. You'll be sent back to work tomorrow. The doctor left without another word. Taehyun lay there, trying to remember. Mining operations. Yes, he worked in the mines. But something felt wrong. There were holes in his memory, big ones. When he tried to look at them directly, pain shot through his skull. A face appeared above him. "Ji-woo, how do you feel?" she asked, like garbage. "Did I really hit my head in the mines?" "That's what the report says." Something in her voice made him look closer. Her amber eyes held a question, a test. But he didn't know what answer she wanted. "I don't remember it," he said carefully. "What do you remember?" Taehyun closed his eyes and searched his mind. "I remember fixing a broken drill yesterday. I remember eating synthetic paste in the cafeteria. I remember sleeping in my cell." He opened his eyes. "That's it. Everything else is just gone." Ji-woo nodded slowly, but her hand trembled slightly as she updated his medical chart. After a moment, she leaned closer and whispered, "The neural wipe was supposed to take everything from the past week. Can you remember anything from 7 days ago?" Warning bells rang in Taehyun's mind. This was a trap. It had to be. Fraxi didn't help humans. They didn't whisper secrets or ask strange questions. But her eyes looked desperate, almost pleading. "No," he lied. "Nothing." Relief flooded her face. She straightened up and spoke in a normal voice. "Good. Rest now. I'll have you released tomorrow." That night, alone in his cell, Taehyun explored his memories again. The wipe had failed. He shouldn't remember, but he did. The reactor. The sabotage. The data chip. His hand went to his stomach. He could feel a small hard lump there just below his ribs. The chip was still inside him. But why had the wipe failed? Memory wipes were perfect. The Vraxi used them on humans all the time. Unless someone had sabotaged it. Unless Ji-woo had saved him, he needed to know. He needed answers. But asking questions would get him killed. The next morning, Daeho met him outside the medical bay. His friend and work partner looked worried. "You okay?" Daeho asked. "Yeah, just a head injury." "That's weird. The guards told everyone you were being punished for breaking into the reactor bay." Taehyun froze. "What?" "Yeah, they said you tried to sabotage the reactor. That you were the reason it almost melted down." Daeho studied his face. "But you don't remember any of that?" "No, I don't remember anything." "That's because they wiped you." Daeho grabbed his arm and pulled him into an empty corridor. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Listen to me carefully. The official story is bullshit. I heard what really happened. You saved the station. You found evidence of Vraxi sabotage, so they erased you and blamed you for everything. How do you know this? Because I'm not just a miner." Daeho's eyes were hard. "There's a human resistance on this station. We're small, we're careful, but we're here. And we've been watching you." Taehyun's world tilted. "A resistance? On Helio 7. Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're valuable. Your engineering skills could help us. And because Ji-woo, the Vraxi supervisor, she's been acting strange. She sabotaged your memory wipe. You know that for certain? Our contact in medical confirmed it. She altered the neural probe's calibration. You should be a vegetable right now. Instead, you remember everything." Daeho leaned closer. "The question is, why would a Vraxi save a human?" Taehyun didn't have an answer. Over the next 2 weeks, he played his part. He pretended to be memory wiped. He worked in the engineering bay, fixing equipment and avoiding eye contact with Ji-woo. But he watched her, and he noticed things. She was careful. Too careful. She deleted logs that mentioned him. She reassigned guards who had seen him during the reactor incident. She was covering her tracks, protecting them both. One night, she cornered him in a storage room. "We need to talk," she said. "About what?" "Don't play dumb. I know the wipe didn't work. I made sure it didn't work." She looked exhausted. "I've been watching you pretend for 2 weeks. It's driving me insane." Taehyun decided to trust her, or at least pretend to. "Why did you save me?" "Because what they did was wrong. You saved thousands of lives and they tried to erase you for it. You're Vraxi, why do you care about one human?" Ji-woo was quiet for a long moment. "My mother was a colony administrator. She oversaw human workers on 3 different stations. She always said humans were inferior, weak, stupid. I believed her." She met his eyes. "Then I watched you fix a reactor that our best engineers said was impossible to save. I watched you risk your life in radiation that would have killed any Vraxi in seconds, and I realized my mother was wrong. That doesn't explain why you'd risk everything for me. Because if the Empire can lie about this, what else are they lying about?" She pulled out a small data reader. "I've been digging into the official reports. The reactor sabotage wasn't the first incident. There have been 17 accidents on human-staffed stations in the past year. 17 reactors, power cores, or life support systems mysteriously failing. And every time humans were blamed, Taehyun felt cold. What are you saying? I think someone in the Empire is systematically destroying stations with human workers, making it look like human incompetence. But I can't prove it without the evidence you found. The data chip. Yes, where is it? Taehyun hesitated. This could still be a trap. An elaborate way to find the chip and destroy it. But Jiwoo had saved him. She had risked her career, maybe her life, to keep his memories intact. I swallowed it, he said. It's inside me. Jiwoo's eyes widened. You what? I didn't have time to hide it anywhere else. The guards were dragging me away, so I swallowed it. Taehyun, that chip has a metal casing. It's not designed to be inside a living body. The digestive acids will corrode it. You need to get it out. I know. I've been feeling it. There's pain sometimes in my side. Jiwoo pulled out a medical scanner and ran it over his abdomen. Her face went pale. The casing is already breaking down. You're bleeding internally. Not much yet, but it's starting. Can you remove it surgically? Not without access to a medical bay. And the bays are monitored. If I try to operate on you, Kale will know immediately. They stared at each other. The chip was killing him slowly, but removing it would expose them both. There has to be another way, Taehyun said. There is. Daeho stepped out from behind a storage crate. You do the surgery in secret. Jiwoo spun around, her hand going to her weapon. Who are you? A friend. And before you shoot, know that there are 5 more humans watching this conversation. If you hurt either of them, you'll be dead before you hit the floor. Jiwoo's hand stayed on her weapon. You're resistance. Smart Vraxi. Yes, we're resistance. And we've been listening to everything. Daeho walked closer. You want to expose the truth. We want to save our people. Seems like we have common interests. I won't betray the Empire. We're not asking you to betray it. We're asking you to save it from itself. Daeho pointed at Taehyun. Help us get that chip. Let us broadcast the truth. If you're right about the sabotage pattern, we can stop more deaths. Human and Vraxi. Jiwoo looked between them. Her entire life had been built on loyalty to the Empire. But that Empire had tried to destroy evidence and erase an innocent man. It had covered up sabotage and blamed the victims. I'll help, she said finally. But we do this my way, carefully. If we get caught, we all die. Taehyun felt the chip shift inside him. Pain bloomed across his side. Time was running out. The pain started small. Just a dull ache in Taehyun's side when he bent over to pick up tools. He ignored it for 3 days. On the 4th day, he coughed and tasted copper in his mouth. He was bleeding inside. Jiwoo noticed first. She saw him wince while lifting a heavy power cell. Her eyes went to his midsection and her face darkened. Medical bay. Now, she ordered. I can't. Kale has guards watching every entrance. I don't care. You're dying. Not yet. Taehyun straightened up, forcing the pain down. Give me another day. Daeho is working on a plan. You don't have another day. She pulled him into a supply closet and ran the medical scanner over his stomach. The screen showed a dark mass near his intestines. The chip's metal casing had corroded completely on one side. Sharp edges were cutting into him with every breath. 12 hours, Jiwoo said quietly. Maybe less. After that, you'll start bleeding heavily. You'll go into shock. Then you'll die. Taehyun leaned against the wall. His hands were shaking. Then we need to do the surgery tonight. Where? I told you the medical bays are monitored. Daeho found a place. An old maintenance tunnel in Section 7. It's been sealed off for 2 years. No cameras, no guards, no sterile environment, no proper equipment, no anesthesia. Jiwoo shook her head. I've done basic medical training, but I've never performed surgery, especially not in conditions like that. It's the only option we have. You'll die. I'm already dying. Taehyun met her eyes. At least this way there's a chance. Jiwoo spent the rest of the day stealing medical supplies. She was careful, taking one item at a time from different storage areas. A scalpel from the surgical wing, bandages from the emergency kits, antibiotics from the pharmacy. Each theft was a risk. Each theft brought them closer to being caught. Daeho arranged the location. The maintenance tunnel was exactly as bad as Jiwoo had feared. Narrow, dirty, and lit by a single flickering work light. Water dripped from rusty pipes overhead. The floor was covered in grime and old machine oil. This is insane, Jiwoo said when she saw it. This is survival, Daeho replied. He had brought 3 other humans with him. They set up a makeshift operating table using a stretched tarp over metal crates. We've got lookouts at both ends of the tunnel. If anyone comes, you'll have 2 minutes warning. 2 minutes isn't enough time for surgery. Then we better not get caught. At midnight, Tae-hyun lay down on the tarp. The plastic crinkled under his weight. The maintenance tunnel was cold, but sweat poured down his face anyway. Fear and pain mixed together until he couldn't tell them apart. Jiwoo's hands trembled as she laid out the stolen medical tools. A scalpel, forceps, surgical thread. It looked like something from a horror story, not a hospital. Last chance to back out, she said. Can't back out when you're already falling. Tae-hyun tried to smile. Just do it fast, I have anesthetic. Not much, but enough to numb the area. No, I need to stay alert. If security comes, I need to be able to run. Jiwoo stared at him. You're asking me to cut you open while you're fully conscious. I'm asking you to save my life. She picked up the scalpel. Her hand was still shaking. Daeho stepped forward and gripped her shoulder. You can do this, he said quietly. We've all seen you work. You're precise. You're careful. That's all surgery is, Jiwoo nodded. She looked down at Tae-hyun. This is going to hurt. I know. The first cut was the worst. The scalpel sliced through skin and muscle, and Tae-hyun's entire body went rigid. He bit down on a leather strap Daeho had given him. Blood welled up immediately, running down his side and dripping onto the tarp. Jiwoo's hand steadied. Once the cut was made, her training took over. She worked quickly, pulling apart layers of tissue and searching for the chip. Tae-hyun's vision blurred. The pain was beyond anything he had imagined. It wasn't just the cutting. It was the feeling of hands inside him, moving things that should never be moved. I can't find it, Jiwoo whispered. Her voice was tight with panic. The scanner showed it here, but there's too much blood. Daeho grabbed a cloth and pressed it against the wound, soaking up blood. For a moment, they could see clearly. The chip was there, embedded in damaged tissue, but it had moved. The metal edges had cut into Tae-hyun's intestine, and the chip was partially inside the organ. If I pull it out, I might tear the intestine, Jiwoo said. If you don't pull it out, I die anyway. Tae-hyun gasped. Do it. She positioned the forceps carefully. Her hands were steady now. All her focus narrowed down to this one moment. This one impossible task. She gripped the chip and began to pull. Tae-hyun screamed. The leather strap fell from his mouth. One of the resistance members clamped a hand over his face to muffle the sound. Blood poured from the wound. Jiwoo kept pulling slowly and steadily. The chip came free with a wet tearing sound. She held it up. The small metal square was covered in blood and bile. The casing was corroded almost completely through. I removed it, Jiwoo said. Her voice was hollow with shock. Then Tae-hyun's body jerked. His eyes rolled back. The blood flow from his wound increased dramatically. He's going into shock, Daeho said. You need to close him up now. Jiwoo grabbed the surgical thread. Her hands were shaking again. She had practiced stitching on synthetic skin during training, but this was different. This was real flesh, slippery with blood. This was a man dying on a table in front of her. She made the first stitch. Then the second. Her vision tunneled. Nothing existed except the needle and thread. Tae-hyun's body shook beneath her hands. He was convulsing now, his breathing shallow and rapid. Faster, Daeho urged. I'm going as fast as I can. Footsteps echoed from somewhere in the distance. One of the lookouts whistled sharply. A warning. Someone was coming. 30 seconds, one of the resistance members said. Jiwoo had 4 more stitches to go. Her hands moved faster. The stitches weren't pretty, but they were holding. Blood still leaked from the wound, but slower now. She tied off the final stitch and grabbed a bandage, pressing it hard against Tae-hyun's stomach. We need to move him, Daeho said. They lifted Tae-hyun between them. He was barely conscious, his skin gray and cold. They carried him deeper into the maintenance tunnel, away from the approaching footsteps. Behind them, someone shouted. A guard had found the surgery site. Blood on the tarp. Medical supplies scattered on the floor. Alarms began to wail throughout the station. Kale knows, Jiwoo said. He knows something happened. Can he track us? Daeho asked. Not here. The maintenance tunnels aren't on the main network. But once we leave, he'll find us in minutes. They reached a junction where the tunnel split in 3 directions. Daeho whistled and a hidden door opened in the wall. Behind it was a small chamber, barely large enough for 6 people. Supplies were stacked in the corners, water, food, medical kits. A resistant safe house. They laid Tae-hyun on a mat. Jiwoo checked his pulse. Weak but steady. He might make it, she said. If infection doesn't set in. If he doesn't start bleeding again. If we're very lucky. Daeho pulled the data chip from where Jiwoo had set it down. He wiped the blood off carefully and inserted it into a portable reader. The screen flickered to life. What they saw made everyone in the room go silent. Files. Hundreds of them. Communication logs between Vraxi officials. Engineering reports that had been altered. Death records that had been erased. The data chip contained proof of everything Jiwoo had suspected and more. The Vraxi Empire wasn't just covering up accidents. They were causing them. Systematically killing human workers who showed too much intelligence, too much skill. Anyone who might threaten Vraxi technological superiority was eliminated, and their deaths blamed on human incompetence. 17 stations. Over 4,000 human deaths. All deliberate. All hidden. This is genocide, one of the resistance members whispered. Jiwoo stared at the screen. Her entire world was breaking apart. Everything she had believed about her empire, her people, her purpose. All of it was built on lies and murder. Daeho looked at her. What are you going to do? Jiwoo's hands curled into fists. She looked down at Taehyun, unconscious and bleeding from a wound she had cut into him. He had trusted her with his life. With humanity's greatest secret. With everything. I'm going to help you destroy them, she said quietly. Taehyun woke to voices arguing above him. His whole body felt like it had been broken and poorly put back together. The wound in his stomach burned with every breath. We can't wait any longer, Daeho was saying. The next shift change is in 3 hours. If we miss this window, we wait another 8 hours. He's not stable enough to move, Jiwoo replied. The bleeding has stopped, but barely. If we carry him through the tunnels, the stitches could tear. Then we leave him here with a guard. No. Taehyun's voice came out as a rasp. I'm coming with you. Everyone turned to look at him. He tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain exploded across his stomach. Jiwoo pushed him back down. You're delirious, she said. You lost too much blood. I'm thinking clearly. Taehyun grabbed her arm. His grip was weak, but his eyes were focused. You're about to broadcast evidence that will start a war. You need every advantage you can get. I know the station's systems better than anyone. You can barely stand. I don't need to stand. I need to type. He forced himself into a sitting position. Blood spotted the bandage on his stomach, but the stitches held. How much time do we have? Daeho checked his chronometer. 2 hours and 40 minutes until the shift change. Then we need to move now. Getting to the Ansible chamber will take at least an hour through the maintenance tunnels. Jiwoo looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Help him up. 2 resistance members pulled Taehyun to his feet. The world spun. His legs shook. But he stayed upright. Jiwoo injected him with a stimulant. Energy flooded his system, pushing back the pain and exhaustion. That will last about 4 hours, she said. After that, you'll crash hard. 4 hours is all we need. They moved through the tunnels in near darkness. Taehyun leaned on Daeho, each step sending jolts of pain through his body. The stimulant helped, but it couldn't completely mask the damage. He was walking with a hole in his stomach that had been stitched together by shaking hands in a dirty tunnel. The Ansible chamber was in the station's communication hub. Getting there meant crossing through 3 secured checkpoints. Normally impossible for humans. But Jiwoo had supervisor clearance. This is insane, one of the resistance members whispered. We're walking straight into the most guarded area of the station. That's why it'll work, Daeho said. Kale expects us to hide. He's searching the outer sections, the mining areas, the places where humans usually go. He's not watching the command decks. They reached the first checkpoint. Jiwoo stepped forward alone. A Vraxi guard looked up from his station. Supervisor Jiwoo, what are you doing in the maintenance tunnels? Investigating the human insurgents. I have reason to believe they're using these passages to move undetected. She gestured back toward the darkness. I need access to the communication hub to check for signal tampering. The guard hesitated. I haven't received any orders about this. That's because this is a direct investigation ordered by the Security Council. Unless you want to explain to them why you delayed a priority investigation? Jiwoo's voice was cold and authoritative. The voice of someone who had spent her life giving orders. The guard stepped aside. Of course, Supervisor. Go ahead. They passed through. Then the second checkpoint. Then the third. Each time, Jiwoo's confidence and credentials carried them forward. Each time, Taehyun expected alarms to sound, guards to realize what was happening. But the Vraxi system relied on hierarchy. No one questioned a supervisor. The Ansible chamber was empty except for a single technician monitoring displays. Jiwoo stunned him with her sidearm before he could react. They dragged his unconscious body into a storage closet. "How long until he's found?" Taeho asked. 20 minutes if we're lucky. 10 if we're not. Jiwoo sealed the chamber door and activated privacy protocols. "Start uploading the data." Taehyun sat down at the main console. His hands moved across the controls, muscle memory taking over. The Ansible system was complex, but he had studied it during his years on the station. Every system, every network. He had absorbed it all, preparing for a freedom that seemed impossible. Now that preparation mattered. "I can route the transmission through 17 different relay stations," he said. "By the time they trace it back, the data will already be copied across the network. Deleting it would take weeks." "Do it," Taeho said. Taehyun began typing. His vision blurred occasionally from blood loss and the stimulant crash that was coming. But his fingers kept moving. Code scrolled across the screen. The data from the chip was compressed, encrypted, and packaged for transmission. "I need your authorization codes," Taehyun said to Jiwoo. She recited them from memory. Taehyun entered them into the system. Access granted. The Ansible transmitters powered up. "Targeting every registered receiver in the sector," Taehyun said. "Human stations, Vraxi networks, independent colonies, news organizations, military channels, everyone. Kyle will know the moment we send," Jiwoo said. "He'll lock down the station. Kill everyone in this section to prevent our escape." "I know." Taehyun looked at her. "Are you sure about this?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." She touched her communicator. "This is Supervisor Jiwoo. Authorization code Amber 77. I'm broadcasting evidence of crimes against humanity committed by the Vraxi Empire. Anyone listening to this transmission should know that I act alone. The humans on this station are innocent. They are victims, not criminals." She looked at Taehyun. "What happens next is on me." Taehyun reached out and took her hand. "What happens next is on all of us." He pressed the transmit button. The Ansible arrays activated simultaneously across the station. Massive amounts of data began streaming out in all directions. To human colonies where workers thought they were alone in their suffering. To Vraxi news networks that had never questioned the official narrative. To independent investigators who had suspected the truth but lacked proof. The evidence went everywhere. Communication logs, death records, engineering reports showing deliberate sabotage, video files of Vraxi officials discussing elimination quotas, financial documents tracking the profitability of human labor versus the cost of human intelligence. All of it, undeniable, documented, real. Alarms began screaming throughout the station. Kale's voice came over the intercom, distorted by rage. "Ansible chamber, you are surrounded. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." "He's bluffing," Taeho said. "He can't destroy the Ansible chamber. It would cut off the station's communication." "He'll try to breach the door," Jiwoo said. "We have maybe 5 minutes." "The transmission is at 40%, Taehyun reported. "I need 3 more minutes." Explosions rocked the door. Kale wasn't waiting. He was cutting through with plasma torches. Smoke began seeping into the chamber. Taeho grabbed a weapon from the stunned technician. "I'll hold them off." "You can't," Jiwoo said. "There are dozens of guards out there." "I know." Taeho looked at his friend. At Taehyun, who had saved the station and been erased for it. At Jiwoo, who had betrayed her entire species to stand with them. "But I can buy you time." "Taeho, someone has to." He smiled. "It was peaceful. I've been ready for this since the day they brought me here in chains." "Make it count." He opened the door and charged into the corridor. The sound of weapons fire filled the air, screaming, explosions, then silence. Taehyun's hands shook on the controls. 70%. The door began to glow red. They were cutting through faster now. Jiwoo grabbed a second weapon and positioned herself between Taehyun and the door. "When it breaches, run," she said. "There's an emergency access tunnel behind the main console. I'm not leaving you. You have to. Someone needs to make sure the data spreads. Someone needs to tell humanity what we did here." 85%. The door collapsed inward. Kale stepped through with a dozen armed guards. His face was twisted with fury. He saw Jiwoo standing with a weapon pointed at him. Saw Taehyun at the console. Understood what they had done. Traitor, he hissed. No, Jiwoo said calmly. Patriot. I'm saving the Empire from itself, she fired. Kale dove aside. The guards returned fire. Energy bolts lit up the chamber. Jiwoo's shields absorbed most of the hits, but one got through. She staggered. 95%, Taehyun called out. Kyle aimed his weapon at the Ansible arrays. If he destroyed them, the transmission would stop. Everything they had sacrificed would mean nothing. Taehyun's hand found the override control. His last desperate move. The thing he had been saving for this exact moment. He activated the station's experimental jump drive. What are you doing? Kale shouted. Saving everyone, Taehyun said. 100%. Transmission complete. The data had spread across known space. Every human station. Every news network. Every independent colony. The truth was out there now. Undeniable. Permanent. And the station began to move. The jump drive was supposed to be impossible. Raxi scientists had deemed it too dangerous. The calculations too complex. The risk too high. But Taehyun had studied it. Had run the simulations in his head during sleepless nights in his cell. He knew it would work. And he knew exactly where to send the station. You'll kill us all, Kale screamed. No, Taehyun said. I'll save us all. The station jumped. Reality twisted. For one impossible moment, Taehyun saw everything. The whole universe laid out like a map. Then they were somewhere else. Uncharted space. Far from the Empire. Far from the war that was about to begin. The red warning lights painted the corridor in blood as Taehyun ran toward the reactor bay. His boots echoed against metal floors while alarms screamed overhead. Around him, Vraxi workers fled in the opposite direction. Their tall gray bodies pushed past him without a second glance. To them, he was just another human. Another tool that could be replaced. Move faster, human, a Vraxi guard shouted, shoving him forward. Taehyun stumbled but kept running. His hands shook not from fear but from excitement. After 2 years of scrubbing coolant pipes and fixing broken drills, they finally needed him for something real. The reactor was dying, and apparently he was the only one who could save it. He reached the reactor bay doors where Jiwoo waited. She was different from other Vraxi. Smaller, with bright amber eyes that actually looked at him instead of through him. As the station's engineering supervisor, she had pulled him from the mining pits 3 months ago. She said his repair work showed promise. The other humans said she was just looking for a smarter slave. The core temperature is rising every second, Jiwoo said, her voice tight. Can you fix it? Taehyun studied the control panel. Numbers scrolled past in Vraxi script, but he had learned to read it during long nights in his cell. I need to see the core directly. These readings don't make sense. That section is restricted. No humans allowed. Then everyone dies, Taehyun said simply. Jiwoo's face twitched. It was the Vraxi equivalent of a frown. She touched her wrist communicator. Security Chief Kale, I need authorization to bring a human into the core chamber. The response crackled back immediately. Denied. Use Vraxi technicians. Sorry, they're all evacuating. The human engineer is our only option. A long pause followed. Taehyun watched the temperature gauge climb. Red zone, critical zone. Then a number he had never seen before. The station had maybe 10 minutes. Fine, Kale's voice came back. But he wears a shock collar. If he tries anything, fry him. The collar snapped around Taehyun's neck moments later, cold metal pressed against his skin. He had worn one before during his first week on the station. The memory of electricity tearing through his body still woke him up at night. Jiwoo led him into the restricted area. The hallways here were cleaner, wider. The Vraxi didn't let humans see how well they lived while keeping them in cramped cells below. But Taehyun wasn't looking at luxury. He was looking at the pipes, the conduits, the structural supports. Everything told a story if you knew how to read it. The reactor core blazed behind thick protective glass. Plasma writhed inside like a trapped star. Taehyun pulled up the diagnostic interface and began scrolling through data logs. His eyes widened. This wasn't an accident, he said quietly. Jiwoo stepped closer. What do you mean? Look at this. Taehyun pointed to the screen. Someone disabled 3 safety protocols. The coolant recycler was manually shut down 6 hours ago. The pressure valves were locked in closed position. This was sabotage. That's impossible. Only Vraxi have access to these systems. Then one of your people did this. Jiwoo's hand moved to her weapon. For a moment, Taehyun thought she might shoot him just for suggesting it, but she looked at the screen again. Her amber eyes scanned the same data he had seen. Can you fix it? she asked again. Yes, but I need to reset the system from inside the maintenance shaft. It's going to be hot. Probably lethal for a Vraxi. And for a human? Taehyun smiled without humor. We're harder to kill than you think. He climbed into the shaft with a toolkit and a radiation suit 2 sizes too big. The heat hit him immediately, even through the protective layers. Sweat poured down his face. His hands worked fast, disconnecting corrupted modules and rerouting power flow. The reactor screamed around him, metal groaning under impossible pressure. Inside the shaft, he found something else, a data chip, hidden behind a panel that should never have been opened. He pulled it free and slipped it into his pocket. Whatever was on it, someone had wanted it destroyed with the reactor. 20 minutes later, he emerged from the shaft. His skin was bright red and his hands were shaking, but the reactor temperature was dropping. Green lights began replacing red ones across the control panel. Ji-woo stared at him. You did it. Yeah. Taehyun pulled off the radiation suit. Now maybe someone can explain why a Vraxi tried to blow up their own station. Before she could answer, Kale strode into the room. The security chief was massive, even for a Vraxi. Scars crossed his face like a roadmap of violence. The human completed the repair? He asked Ji-woo. Yes, he saved the station. Good. Kale turned to Taehyun. You accessed restricted systems. You saw classified information. That cannot be allowed. Taehyun's blood went cold. I just saved your lives, and the Empire thanks you. But security protocols are clear. Any human who gains knowledge of restricted systems must be memory wiped. No, Ji-woo said. That's not necessary. I supervised him the entire time. I don't care. Kale grabbed Taehyun's arm. Take him to medical. Full neural wipe. He won't remember anything from today. 2 guards appeared and dragged Taehyun toward the door. He twisted in their grip, trying to reach Ji-woo. The data chip. Someone sabotaged the reactor. This is a cover-up. Silence him, Kale ordered. 1 guard hit Taehyun in the stomach. Air exploded from his lungs. They carried him into the corridor while he gasped for breath. Ji-woo stood frozen in the reactor bay. She looked at Kale. He saved us. This isn't right. Right doesn't matter. Security does. Kyle walked to the control panel and began deleting logs. The official report will say the reactor malfunction was caused by human error in the mining operations. The human technician attempted repairs but was too incompetent to succeed. I personally corrected the issue. That's a lie. That's policy. Kyle looked at her with cold eyes. You've been spending too much time with the humans, Ji-woo. It's making you soft. Don't forget what you are. He left her alone in the room. Ji-woo stared at the reactor, now running smoothly because of a human's skill and bravery. She thought about Taehyun being strapped to a medical table, his memories torn away, his skill erased, his truth silenced. For the first time in her life, she wondered if the Empire was wrong. In the medical bay, Taehyun lay on a cold metal table. Machines hummed around him. A doctor prepared the neural probe. He had perhaps 3 minutes before they wiped everything away. His hand slipped into his pocket. The data chip was still there. In one desperate move, he swallowed it. The chip scraped down his throat and settled in his stomach. Whatever evidence was on it would survive, hidden inside his own body. The neural probe touched his skull. Electricity began to burn through his mind. And the last thing Taehyun thought before the world went white was a simple prayer. Please let someone find the truth.